The situation for civilians on the ground in Lebanon, Gaza, Israel, and Syria is getting worse by the day. The densely populated capital of Beirut is increasingly being hit by Israeli airstrikes. Hundreds are dead, and over 1 million people have fled their homes throughout the country. Hezbollah and other armed groups continue to fire rockets into Israel, resulting in the first civilian fatalities in the north since the most recent escalation of hostilities between Israel and Lebanon last month. How terrible this has been for civilians, first and foremost. This is going to have an impact that will reverberate across many generations of people in the Middle East. Children who have been out of school for so long, children who've had their limbs amputated, who will be living with lifelong injuries, the trauma of families, the impunity that has marked this conflict, which means that it is going to continue to feed cycles of revenge, injustice. It's so difficult to see. We have been calling, the international community has been calling with one voice for a ceasefire, for the release of the hostages, for a return to some kind of peace. Every military escalation takes us further away from that. The right to peace for the people of Palestine, for the people of Israel, for the people of Lebanon, for the people of the entire Middle East, and the disregard for international law that has been demonstrated in the course of this conflict is also just horrifying. And again, what we need to do in response is to double down. You hear me coming here, you hear the High Commissioner speaking constantly about the need to respect international humanitarian law, and it is easy to get cynical about it. But in these circumstances, it is exactly when we need to double down on insisting that respect for international law is crucial, that it is a matter of international peace and security and human rights for the region and beyond. Last night, Beirut was bombed again, in the heaviest strike yet on the central part of the city. At least 22 people were reported killed and over 100 injured, according to the Ministry of Public Health. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, reminds all parties of their obligation to adhere to international humanitarian law, or the rules of war, with respect to the protection of civilians, civilian objects, and infrastructure. Any alleged violation must be subjected to a prompt and thorough investigation, and those responsible where violations are found to have taken place must be held to account. Amid this escalating violence, we are appalled by the sweeping, inflammatory language on multiple sides. Recent language threatening Lebanese people as a whole and calling on them to either rise up against Hezbollah or face destruction like Gaza risks being understood as encouraging or accepting violence directed against civilians and civilian objects in violation of international law. Ongoing denigration of the UN, in particular UNRWA, is unacceptable. This kind of toxic rhetoric from any source must stop. Attacks on hospitals also continue. One strike on Al-Yaman al-Said Hospital, serving as an IDP shelter in Jabalia camp, killed 17 Palestinians, including children and women. On the 9th of October, the Israeli military ordered the evacuation within 24 hours of Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, the largest operating hospital in northern Gaza, impacting hundreds of injured, other patients and medical workers, as well as residents that rely on the hospital. Meanwhile, in other parts of Gaza, a strike on Rufaidah School, sheltering IDPs in the west of Deir al-Balah on the 10th of October, reportedly killed 28 Palestinians, including children and women. We have recorded at least 14 schools struck this October alone, at a rate of more than one school a day. The killing, destruction, as well as the bellicose posturing by those in positions of power must end. There is no alternative to resolution of this conflict than at the negotiating table.